Dude, what's up? I was just surfing. I seen a couple of guys in their top 10 pound for pound list. I'm not gonna give you a pound for pound list. What I am is I'm gonna talk about the criteria for making a list, which I think is just as interesting a discussion as the list itself. You know, how do you rate pound for pound? You know, what do you have to do to be pound for pound? Does pound for pound mean moving up in weight, fighting different weight classes? Does it mean beating top guys in a given weight class, wiping out a division? Does it mean the manner in which you beat opponents as opposed to, you know what I'm saying, winning close decisions or just straight knocking guys out? What is the criteria for pound? And funny thing is, you would think that pound for pound, with the broadness of what is involved in being pound for pound, that you would have a lot of different names, a lot of different people on the list. But oddly enough, typically it's the same. You know, it seems to not be the pound for pound list, but more the popularity list, shall you say? The popularity list. Let's call it the P4P, popularity list, you know. 1 and 2 is always the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Every damn list, damn near you look at. Except for my man Blood Boxing. Big ups, homeboy. Like, to me, that was a real list, you know what I'm saying? I'm not necessarily agreeing with who he had on the list. And like he said, that was his motherfucking list, you know? Put whoever you want, you know? But what's the criteria? You know, do you just put who you think in your mind is the best fighter? Is it the list of the accomplishments that a person has achieved in the ring? The amount of titles that they beat or champions that they beat? The amount of fights that they had? I always hear pound for pound lists, but I never hear the criteria on what's included and how they make their list. What the fuck do you have to do to be on this list? And the list, if you ask me, this is my video, so I guess I'm just telling you, is you have to be fighting. You have to fucking be in the ring. You can't be the best basketball player if you don't ever fucking hoop. You can't be the best football player if you fucking Terry Bradshaw right now. Can't be the best quarterback in the game. You know, fucking Joe Montana not the best quarterback in the game. You know, if you're a guy who's criticized for his choice of opponents, to me that automatically keeps you off the list. You know what I'm saying? There were certain guys, you got to think about it. Certain guys were never criticized for opponents. You know, Sugar Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, you know, Julio Cesar Chavez, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield. You know, these guys, whenever they fought, they were fighting top-notch guys from the middle of their career to the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, when Tyson got out of jail, he had a tune-up fight. Of course, you know, he had to fight a bum, you know what I'm saying, so people could see what, you know, what he still had. But, I mean, you know, during the course of Holyfield's career, you know, he had Big George, Michael Moore, a couple fights with Michael Moore, 3 fights with Riddick Bowe, 2 fights with Lennox Lewis. He fought Michael Dokes, you know. He fought, knocked out Buster Douglas right after he knocked out Tyson. You know, there, you know, weren't no tune-up fights or, you know, him skipping this dude or skipping that dude. You know, whoever was up next, that's who he fought, you know. So many excuses, you know, like, you know, guys won't You know, I heard somebody say that Amir Khan wanted to fight a dude and get like 90% of the purse. You know, ludicrous. You know what I'm saying? Why isn't he fighting Bradley to begin with? You know. So, in order to be on the list, you have to fight top-notch guys. You have to be fighting often to, in my eyes, to be on the list. You know, you got guys like Juan Manuel Marquez. He fought the top guy at 130. He fought him at 126, chased him up to 130. Then he moved up to 135. At 135, he knocked out the lineal champion at 135, the guy who was the champ. Then he fought the guy who everybody thought was the best in the division, in Juan Diaz. Knocked him out. Then he fought the guy who people thought was next best, in Michael Casitas. Knocked him out. Because Manny Pacquiao beat Josh Clottey and Miguel Cotto and Antonio Margarito. Really? For a year. Had one fight. Who was knocked out in his fight prior to that. You got Andre Ward. He's in a tournament fighting all the top guys in his division, except for maybe one who you can say Lucian Bute. But he's in essence getting ready to complete 5 or 6 fights in a row against all of the top guys in his division. He comes out of that unscathed. How can he not be 1 or 2? You know, feel what I'm saying? Like, to me, that is, or what would make the pound-for-pound list. You don't have to necessarily knock a guy out. You know, you don't necessarily even have to dominate him. You know, as long as you don't get dominated. I mean, because if you fight top competition, somebody bound to get you one night. It's bound to happen, you know. It's going to happen. And the more you fight top guys, the more you fight, the more chances that you have to lose. You know what I'm saying? You got guys who always boast about being undefeated records. If that was the case, Joe Calzaghe is the best of this era. You know what I'm saying? He should have been fighter of the decade. If that was the case, he was, what, 49, 50-0, something like that? No, 41-0 don't mean nothing. It means you did really good picking your opponents. That's what it really means. You know what I'm saying? Because if you can get criticized still for who you fight or lack of fighting, then what does 41-0 really mean, or 42-0, or 35-0, or 27-0? You know, a lot of undefeated guys. You know, and a lot of those undefeated guys not getting a shot. They're not getting a chance to fight these other guys. You know, so I like to hear other folks. What's the criteria for the pound-for-pound list? What does it consist of? What has to be there? You know what I'm saying, to be on the list, to make the list. You know, y'all make the call. Type in, leave your comments. Let me know what would you say should be in there to be a pound-for-pound guy.